Definitely. I think colors are a huge influence of the human experience.
Welcome to Journeys in Focus, where every path tells a story. I'm Brenden, your host, and together we'll explore the journeys that shape our lives and bring our world into focus. Adjust that focus, come along on the journey. Welcome back to another episode of Journeys in Focus. Today we're here with Jackie. It's a pleasure having you on. And we're really going to talk about your journey within the art space and what really made you fall in love with art. So really, why art? We'll start there. Why did you feel like art was the way you wanted to go?
Well, I guess the real question for me is why not art? So when I was a kid, art was my escape. So I wasn't really gifted in the math area or the science area. I kind of really struggled in an academic way. And something that came to me naturally that I really felt successful at when I was in school was at art.
Now, is there a certain medium that you have more of a preference to go for, whether it's painting, more pencil, type stuff like that, or even sculpting and things?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I think that I was really drawn to just drawing and painting mainly, like acrylic paints, color pencil, stuff like that, sometimes oil pastel. But as I got older and I went to high school for art and college for art, I was exposed to new mediums. So that's when I got more experimental. And I know a lot of people as artists like to just be like, oh, I'm a painter or I'm a sculptor, but I consider myself like a multimedia artist. So I do a little bit of everything. And sometimes in certain projects, I'll use 3D elements on something like a canvas, or if I'm doing a sculpture, I'm going to use fabric. I like to experiment a lot.
Through your process, go through from how you plan everything out to the point of where that end result is there.
Yeah, so sometimes for certain projects, I'll have a sketch and
Okay.
I'll follow it all the way through and it'll be really elaborately planned. And then there's other times where I just have a little bit of a block. So I can't come up with an idea and I don't know where I'm going to go. So I'll just start with a blank canvas or a blank piece of paper and just see where my mind kind of leads me and takes me.
And when you have those blocks, does it feel like getting that blank sheet of paper really helps you to overcome that? Or do you end up doing other things at the same time to you'll be working on one project and then you got to walk away from it and do something completely different?
Yeah, so sometimes I find out when I have a block that it's good to, if I just can't move forward on one project, to start a new one. Mm-hmm. And then if I follow through with that one, it could help me with the first one. And then, artist block is something that really sucks because sometimes you can get an artist block if you just, sometimes I feel like I get it if I'm doing a lot of art. So if I'm doing a lot of commissions or I have really big projects, I find it really hard to do something for myself. I love doing art for businesses and other people, but sometimes when I have a lot of that on my plate, I find it hard to create for myself. So sometimes just sitting there with a blank sketchbook, putting on my favorite music, then I'm able to do something for me.
Mm-hmm. And really, even though you're doing it on a business side of things, when you're creating different pieces for businesses, people, whatever that project entails, but when you get to do it for yourself, it lets you express yourself in a different way that you may not have been able to with certain pieces for people or for a business. And that kind of leads me into the next part here as to where do you feel like a lot of your inspiration comes from when you're working on pieces for yourself mainly?
So when I'm working on pieces for myself mainly, I'm inspired a lot by my culture. So my Mexican heritage, because I'm adopted. So I was raised in an Italian Irish household. So one way I really connect with my Mexican side is through art history, research, and also just making art. So I'm really inspired by Mexican textiles, Mexican tapestries. My favorite artist is a printmaker from Mexico, Jose Guadalupe Posada, and I'm really inspired by him and his style. So I feel like I'm influenced in that way as well.
And now, I know on your website that you have, it says art isn't really your job. It's not just your job to express yourself and explore your identity, but it gives you a voice. And art is all about the voice that you share with people and how people perceive your pieces and different things. What is kind of the understanding you want people to kind of take on their own when they look at a piece of work that you have done?
So sometimes when I have that on my website where it says like art's not my job, but like I feel like drawn to do it, and I feel like I have a message to relay. Sometimes I do stuff about like certain things in history. Like I have this one piece that I did, and it was like an acrylic painting, and it was just about like the border crisis and stuff like that. And like I feel like people could do artwork, and that's where their voice is. Like, you know, you could express your opinions on controversial topics, but also on just like issues, humanitarian issues, stuff like that. So that's where I feel like it's important for people to see. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
because it seems like through the pieces that I've seen that you have done, especially at FIT. I know you had a gallery at FIT, and the pieces that were incorporated within that gallery were definitely drawing for people to see and just kind of get that understanding of like, okay, she is trying to get these understandings on these different sides, and kind of like speak it in her own way, even though it's through art and it's not through words.
Yes.
Like some people would have it, like you get to express it in a way that you want to express it, and that makes it so much easier for you because that's how your mind goes. Once you think of it, you probably go straight to the paper, and it becomes into this magnificent piece of artwork.
Thank you.
So really, what is like on your journey so far? What do you feel like your like hardest challenges in a way? Whether it's working on a project to get it done, or is it just kind of getting out there more to get more stuff? What would you feel like your biggest challenge is so far?
I feel like I have a lot of challenges, but I would feel like one of them is definitely staying self-disciplined. So like making and allotting time for projects, especially when they are for customers, is in a timely fashion. I'm not great with time management. I have ADHD, so I get super distracted. So it's really hard for me to like just get myself to stay focused and get projects done by a certain amount of time. But at the end of the day, when I give the result to people, it's always worth the wait for them. So that's exciting. And I would say like, another challenge is kind of what I talked about before, is like if I have a lot of projects, is still doing art for myself. It's something I want to get better at. So that's why like I have a sketchbook, and I try to be like, okay, if I can't work on a big project for myself while I'm making a project for someone else, at least like I'll get my ideas rolling, whether that's just writing out my ideas or drawing them of projects I want to do for myself.
Now, when you're doing that and kind of going through the projects for yourself, and you're putting the pieces that you're working on to the side to maybe get that extra idea for those pieces, when you're writing down the notes on what you may want to do for you, or doing like a rough sketch of something that you want to work on as a project for yourself, do you feel like that sometimes gives you an idea to take to the bigger project that you have going on?
Yeah, sometimes it gives me a different idea, but more than anything, it just, I think, gives me like a new breath. Like it just gives me like a new set of eyes. So when I start to paint and draw for myself, and then I go back to that project I'm doing for someone else, I just kind of feel almost refreshed.
Okay.
And I can kind of go in with like I'll be like, oh, well, I didn't think about it that way, but because I did this in that painting, now I can apply it this way. Like this technique or these colors, I think would go better, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's you're kind of seeing, you don't want to test it off on the bigger thing first. You want to test it on the side and see, oh, does this work with this? And when you see the colors blend in the way that they do, and you go back and you use it on what you're your bigger project that you have going on is definitely probably wraps the piece together completely, and then may even surprise the person in the end that's receiving that project that you've done. Now, what it seems like art right now is all over the place with all the different types of art now that there could be, because photography's art, video making's art, drawing's art, painting, sculpting, like you name it. There's so many different types of art now. And it seems like everyone in some way is doing something art-wise, whether you just take your iPhone and you take a picture, that's technically a piece of art, or you go home and you are eating and you get done eating and you start making designs with the food that you didn't eat, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest advice that you could give to somebody that really kind of wants to get into this like space of design or art in a sense that could really push them to make their name become out there?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is like I think a lot of people get really intimidated by like the arts, not just like what I do, but like you said, like photography, drawing, writing. I think just people get really nervous about being creative because like you have like people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like I've had people be like, oh, I wish I could do it. I wish I could paint. I wish I could draw. And I'm like, you can. Like all you have to do is just pick up something and just start drawing. Just start, making your ideas come to life. The only person truly judging is yourself. Like you don't have to share it with other people. And I would just say just start somewhere, and then as time goes on, you'll get better. If you practice anything, you're going to become good at it. Like if you do something every day or once a week, over time you're going to become really, really good at what you do, and it'll just feel natural.
Yeah. And kind of when you're working on your craft every single day, you're picking up different things or looking at something in a different way that you may not have thought that, okay, I could do this stroke of paint on this, but if I do it this way, it actually creates a better look or gives you a different texture to that piece and design that you may be looking for. And I believe on your website, you've done some classes with people where you've taught them.
Yeah.
And what does teaching somebody art mean to you?
Teaching art to somebody to me is like one of like the most exciting things I can do. Like I'm really honored that I've been able to teach kids before and to like allow them to embrace their creativity. I think it's really important when teaching people art. It's such a weird concept to teach someone how to be creative, or teach someone how to paint. But when I have taught kids, the main thing I like to focus on when I first start teaching class is like the basics. So shapes, space, color, and shading. But I don't like to control what their subject matter is. Like I'll put a theme there. Okay, today is going to be animals and animal portraits, and we're going to focus on primary colors and shapes, and I'll do an example, I'll do a demo, but I'm not going to make them all make the same kind of cat with the same shapes and the same colors. Like they can be creative in a sense of choosing what they want and having the freedom. And if it strays off a little bit, I'm not the type of teacher to be like, don't do that.
And really everyone has their own side to how they want things to look, and it could be more abstract, it could be more realistic. It's basically how they perceive what you told them. Like, okay, like this is the cat, but make it your own.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about art. There's really nothing out there that you may do that somebody else is going to do the same way. Because the way you do it to the way I could do it, it's not going to look the same, even though I could sit next to it and look at it and be like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. But in the end, it will never be the same way as how you did it. Because we all have our different skills, and our mind is just telling us like, no, we got to go in this direction with it rather than this direction.
Yeah.
And really, that's how I feel artists get their voice out there and can make their works really make a point to people and gravitate them in to go to a gallery and look at them and just like fall in love with a piece. Because what it may mean to you may mean something else to them because of the way that they perceive it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have you really noticed a time when that may have happened? Like you've done a piece and it spoke to somebody in a different way than the way you wanted it to kind of connect with somebody?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when creating, that's the thing. Like you can have a portrait, you can have something that means something so deep to you, but to other people, it's just, they're like, all right, well, I see this, I see that. I feel like I get that more though, like different interpretations when I'm doing something a little more on the abstract side. So like if I have something that's purely just shapes and expression and very expressionistic. So, and that way it's just full of emotion, no deep personal meaning to me. Mm-hmm. It's just a way of expressing myself, letting my feelings out. That's when I feel like I have people looking at my work and they're like, oh, like this reminds me of a building and this one reminds me of a wave. And I'm like, that's where I think they're interpreting it differently. Like they're like, I see this kind of scene. I mean, for me, it's just, an expressionistic piece. The other pieces I've made, like the ones that are portraits of myself or the thing, like I have a series called, it's like I'm working on a series and it's all flowers for different Latin American countries called Proud of Our Roots. And I have this one multimedia quilt and that people always interpret differently too. Some people see it like it's a quilt. Some people think it's like a self-portrait. Some people think it's a big rug. But overall, that's one of my favorite pieces. But it's really interesting to see how different people from different walks of life interpret that piece as well.
Now, when you hear people come up to you and are talking to you about a certain piece that you've done, what does it, like when they do interpret it in a way that's different from yours, how does it make you feel? Is it a positive thing? Is it like realizing that we as humans don't all see the same and having that understanding on a different thing? Does that lead you to like on the next project, do you take what they may have said and bring it over to this because of that connection that they may have had with a piece that you've done already?
Yeah, sometimes I take what they say and I find I'm like, it kind of helps me see it through a new lens, and then I'm able to be a little bit more aware of where, like, you're never going to fully control what your audience thinks, but when I do get feedback, sometimes it allows me to tweak things in my next piece so certain messages can be clearer just through the work. Because obviously at the end of the day, you're going to have your artwork on the wall, and traditionally you'll have like a plaque next to it, and it'll have the description of what it is, and then people go, "Oh, that's what it is." But yeah, I also enjoy it when people don't have the same takeaway as I do when I'm making it. I think it's really fun, and I think that's the beautiful thing about art is that art is always going to mean something different to the viewer than the creator, and I think sometimes it's nice to embrace that. I don't want my message to be fully lost, but if it means something beautiful and exciting or different to somebody else, I'm totally okay with that too.
Now, when you hang a piece of art on the wall, whether it's a gallery or I know your most recent project that you've been working on with painting the glass at the cafe that you work at, what kind of, how rewarding is that to like see that piece up there that so many different people are going to come across and like may stop in their tracks and actually look at the detail that it took to get to that final point? It's
amazing. Like, some people, the goal is big galleries, big museums, big clients. But for me, doing the small things sometimes, doing those windows makes me so happy. And yeah, when I'm at work and I see people, like I saw somebody, like I wasn't even fully done with the window yet. I only had one panel done the other day. And I literally saw like a woman fully stop in her tracks, get her husband to stop, took a picture, smiled, and then kept going. Like, that makes me so happy that someone took the time to stand there, liked it so much as to take a picture, and so they could enjoy it later, and then kept going. And a lot of people come in and are like, oh yeah, I've never been here before, but the windows are so cool, and I was intrigued, and that just makes me so excited. It really does.
And now, what do you feel like makes them stop in that track to come in and be like, oh my gosh, even though I've never been here before, the design on the window right now looks so inviting. Why do you think that was? Is it because of like the colors that you use, or to the design in which it was like put up?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I definitely think part of it is the design aspect, and part of it is the bright, vibrant colors I typically use on the windows. It's just kind of like, friendly. People are drawn to color. People are drawn to warmth. So when they see a place with character and windows done, they're like, huh, like they're intrigued to come in. So I think that's really good. That's also great for businesses too. I think it's awesome when I have local businesses support a local artist by, sprucing up their windows or making designs for them, because it just shows that they support their local artists, their community, and that they also support being creative. And I think that's really fun. Like, I would rather go to a restaurant that's warm, inviting, got these beautiful artworks on the windows, than a place that might look dark or dreary, stuff like that. So I think it's nice.
And staying on the topic of colors, why do you think colors play such of a big role in everyday life, as to the color that you may be wearing to go to work, or just as you're casually just walking down the street, and somebody sees the yellow shirt that you may be wearing, and they see it and it's like, oh, that's bringing me happiness or bringing me joy. Why are colors so special to people?
Yeah, I think certain colors remind people of certain feelings. They associate them with certain memories. Like, yellow typically is a color associated with like positivity and happiness, and blue is a color usually associated with being sad or somber. And I think that's the thing. I think all of us are artists. I think everybody's an artist. Like, when you wake up in the morning and you choose your shirt and your pants and what glasses you're going to wear, and you're an artist. You are making yourself a canvas, and you're choosing how you want to express yourself. So I think that's why people are super attached to certain colors, certain feelings. Like, it's a subconscious thing sometimes, I think, as well.
So you would say colors help people in their day-to-day lives, as to if they woke up, say, on the wrong side of the bed, and their day wasn't starting off the greatest, and then they move along without their day, and they're seeing all these different colors come about. And then they go home and they go to sleep that night, and their mood is completely different because of those colors. Really making that point, would you say colors really are the fabric to like how emotions play with us every single day?
Yeah, definitely. I think colors are a huge influence of the human experience. Like, that's the thing. Like, when certain people work in certain offices and stuff, that's why sometimes offices will commission artists to do a mural on the wall, or they'll paint like a wall a really bright color to bring in like a positive atmosphere, as opposed to just gray, dull, boring, because that affects somebody's mood. If you went somewhere and you worked and everything was dull and there was no character to the room, you would feel probably stagnant, bored, But if you have, when you're at your house and you put something on your wall, then it really starts to feel like a home, and it affects how you feel. So I definitely think, yeah, colors play a huge role in everybody's day to day.
We're even seeing it now within like the transit. Like, look at MTA here, or not even just here in New York, whether it's Boston, Washington, D.C., out in LA, anyone who has a mass transit system, colors represent certain lines.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how often colors are represented, or even now what they've been doing here in New York with the subway renovations that they've been doing, with painting the tiles, cleaning the different tiles up in a sense. And when you go to these newer stations, that you may have gone to before and it was always dark and it's like, whoa, why is it so bright now?
Yeah.
And it definitely brings a new light and positivity to your day for sure. And when you first started within your art journey, have you realized a change in your style from the first moment you started to now?
Yeah, I feel like something that might be a little bit different about me is I wouldn't say I fully have a style just yet. Like, I feel like that's something that I admire from a lot of other artists that I've gone to school with or that I'm friends with, that I've studied. It's just looking at an artwork and being like, I know that that was done by this artist. I feel like I'm not fully there yet, and that's okay because I feel like maybe my hand has also just changed a lot over time. Because I still like to, do work that's expressionistic. But I also find like my passion projects are more, like I said, related to my Mexican, Native American heritage. So for me, it's kind of hard because I don't want to just fully give up one style that I enjoy doing for the other or one subject matter for the other. Yeah. So I feel like I'm still working on developing a hand where you go, like, I know Jackie did that. I feel like I have that for sure with my windows. Like, I wouldn't probably have to write my name. So I don't know and why that is either. Like, why you would be like, I know she did that window, but if I gave you painting, I wouldn't be so confident that
You'd be able to name it.
That people would be able to say, Jackie did that. Unless if they knew all the different types of styles I can do. So I guess that's the benefit, and that's like the benefit and not the not so right side of being able to be like diverse in your subject matter and how you paint, is that sometimes your voice isn't as strong as you'd like it to be.
So you think having more of a niche towards one particular medium is easier to be recognized than having a broad and area of everything that you're able to cover and really create?
Yeah, definitely. I think the fact that I use different mediums for sure, and then also I guess the fact that I just don't have that style yet, where it's like, this is how all her portraits look across the board. This is how all these flowers are always drawn. It's always a little different, but I do think that as time has gone on, I'm getting closer to being identifiable in that way.
Okay. Now, through your art journey and the achievements that you've already had, what is something really that you're looking forward to maybe down the line, whether it's within the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you name it? Is there something that you're working towards that you will, like, when that day comes, it's going to be like, wow, like, I actually did this?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to having my work in a public space again. So I think about 2 years ago, I showed in Snug Harbor, which is like an extension of like the Staten Island Museum. And I showed with a few other female artists as well, who were all Hispanic and Native and stuff like that. So that was probably the most exciting thing for me to date, was just that it was just a true passion project to be involved in. The curator was a woman. It was a woman's space. It was really exciting for me. So I really hope that down the line that I can do something like that again, that I can either participate in something like that or can be a leader in that way, like that I can take inspiration from all the creatives I worked with on that project and maybe do something like that of my own one day. A real dream of mine would be to have a gallery space and a studio space of my own where I can create, and then where I can also exhibit artists who are underrepresented. There's a lot of biases and stuff in the art community toward women and toward people of color, and I think that sometimes if there's not a space for you, you just have to make your own space. And my dream one day would be, in a couple years after working a lot would be to open up my own space and to be able to facilitate that for other people. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what, like how we were talking before, how art is so broad and in so many different ways. Because even, look, singing is an art, dancing is an art, and seeing it through all these different ways on how hard it is to break into an industry and get your name out there to be heard or to be seen or whatever it is, whether you're singing, dancing, taking a picture, drawing with pencil, to making this massive sculpture that you are driving down Park Ave in Manhattan and it's on the corners at every single cross street. And it's like, what did it take for them to get to that point?
Yeah.
To get that bigger break? Did they know somebody? How do they get into that? And those are the questions like we ask every day.
Yeah.
How can we do this? But instead of asking how, it's I can do this and I'll put my full effort into doing that, and down the road it will definitely come. And especially as you stay on your journey, as it starts to come into focus more, it definitely will be rewarding in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I think when people put the time into their passions, you're going to probably get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And you just can't let the no's be discouraging. Like, apply for everything and every opportunity that seems like it's something you want to do. Every dream job, every exhibition opportunity, stuff like that. You know, something I do sometimes is I have business cards and I'll go into businesses, give them my card, offer to do their windows. And sometimes they'll just say, no, thank you. But then by doing that, like, you can get 3 no's and then 4 yeses, you know? It's just stuff like that.
Yep. From one door that you thought was open, and that you thought you were going to be able to get into, now that one closed, but then you go down. If you're on the same street and you go down 2 more storefronts, and those 2 next storefronts could be like, yeah, I want you to do this. I want to have people walk by and see this art piece to bring them in to business, whether it's a restaurant or a clothing store, or whatever it is, to have those signature pieces help them get business, but also helping you get business as well, which is a great thing to have, especially when you're in that collaborating stage with businesses, people, and everything. Do you feel like you want to get back into teaching classes again and help, whether it's kids or even adults, kind of understand what they may want to do and bring their journey into life a little bit more?
So definitely, but not in the same way that I was. I felt that sometimes the bigger the class, the harder it was to give kids that one-on-one attention. And I think that it'd be nice for me to do, I like to do private lessons.
Okay.
So like I'll do one-on-one classes with kids, or like if they have a sibling or some friends, like I like the idea of a smaller group, like between like 1 to like 5 kids. Because then in that way, especially if it's going to be like routine and it's something I'm going to do every week, I think that way they get more individualized attention. We can talk about, I get to know them more on a personal level, see like where they want to go with their art, stuff like that.
Yeah, and having that one-on-one ability really helps to get somebody to that perfection stage.
Yeah.
Even though no one's ever perfect in any scenario, but to improve a skill here and there could mean the world to somebody.
Yeah.
And to have them, if they couldn't do a circle completely perfect without using other tools to make that circle, to then doing it freehand, it could mean the world to them, that they no longer have to use another thing to get that end result that they have to do. Once you take that step away and it's easier to come about, it definitely makes everything go a lot smoother.
Definitely.
Overall, in a whole, to kind of wrap up today, what would you say is the most beneficial advice that you've heard to kind of pursue what you want to do every day and and be the best you can be at what you're doing.
Yeah, so I feel like the best advice I've gotten, and I've gotten this advice from my mom, who was also an artist when she was younger. She's not practicing anymore. And then just like a lot of people that have like teachers and stuff. It's just it's so corny and it's so cliche, but it's like, don't give up. Like, that's the main thing. Because I think people take rejection really poorly, and nobody likes being told no, and nobody likes feeling unsuccessful or like they're not doing enough. But sometimes it's just, don't give up. Don't be so hard on yourself, and keep going. Keep practicing, keep exploring, keep taking in art, keep making art. If you haven't started making art and you want to make art, pick up the pencil and just do it. It's so hard sometimes because you do get discouraged. And taking breaks, there's no problem with taking breaks. But the thing is, don't give up on the idea as a whole. If you need to take time away from creating, that's fine. Get yourself a refresher. But never give up on something completely because you're not where you think you should be at. Because you never know. Because life can really surprise you. Things can pick up really fast out of nowhere. You can start. That's the thing too, is like, especially with art, it's so, sometimes you'll feel like you're on a streak and you got an award and you're showing here and you're showing there and there's a lot of chitter and chatter. But then sometimes after that, it dies down and it's just crickets. And it's like, my art's been rejected from here. My art's been rejected from there. I got I got a block. I don't want to create. I have so many projects. I'm working a lot. It's just like, forget about that sometimes and just keep going. That's what I would say. It's just, don't give up, because there have been times where I just am like, I'm never going to do art again. But I'm so glad that I keep going for it and I keep doing it, because I think in the end it will pay off. Your passion will always pay off.
Yeah.
But if you just stop, how could you succeed if you just stop?
Exactly. And I hope whoever's listening to this episode or watching it on YouTube, and you feel like you're in a place of giving up right now, don't. You don't know where tomorrow's going to take you. You don't know where next week is going to take you, or to the next year. And if you keep trying and putting your all into everything that you have, the results will show.
Definitely.
And when they show, it's going to bring you that positivity, and you're going to be shining with your yellows and your golds and everything else. So don't give up. Keep going. And Jackie, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a blast, and I hope the audience definitely takes pieces from this and hopefully uses it to help them, or even view life in a different way as to how important colors are in our everyday life. So yet again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Journeys in Focus. After today's episode, I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to explore your own journey on a more deeper level. Like always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and share the podcast as well. Follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes content, and much more. Until next time, adjust your focus and come along on the journey.